Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Clémence, aka Cinema Vlogs, and today I'm going to review the SHATTER series. That is the first main 6 books. I'm not going to review the novellas yet. They might come in a future video, but I haven't read them yet, so I'm going to review the main 6 books. There might be some spoilers, however, I will put when they are coming so that you can skip to the next book review if you want. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video and let's get started. It took me around 2 months to read this whole series. Yeah, I started basically in March and ended like 2 days ago. I'm filming on the 24th of May. I don't know when you will see this video, but yeah, it took me 2 months to read this whole series because I took a 1 month gap as I ended up in a reading slump due to one of the books. But overall, I really like the series. So the first book in the series is Shatter Me. I really liked it. I know some people didn't like it because of the writing. It might be a little disconcerting at first. I understand that. I was also disconcerted by all the cross lines, but I really liked that in the end. It was really representing Julia's train of thoughts, and you can really see her evolution by the fact that you have less and less cross lines along the book and the rest of the series. So yeah, you can see that she was getting a lot more self-confident along the way, and I really like that. Also, I really like Adam in the first book, their little love story, and it was like childhood friends suddenly get back together. That was so sweet, and I had so many questions for what was going on with Warner. Why does he want Juliet and stuff like that? And like the first book was a little bit confusing, but it was also really world building and getting to know Juliet's past. I really like that we had little pages of her journal to get to know her past better and why is she like that, obsessed with numbers all the time, counting everything, like the amount of days she's been imprisoned in her cell. And yeah, like it was disconcerting, but at the same time I really liked it. It was really different from what I usually read. But yeah, by the end of the book, I was just really excited to get to see what Juliet will become, to get to know more about her powers, and to see her growth and her personal development. But also I was so excited to know more about Adam and Warner. What does he want of Juliet? And also like all the side characters like Kenji, really sweet. I love him, one of my favorite characters from the series, and James, who was really sweet and all. So yeah, I rated it 5 stars in Goodreads. I will add my link to my Goodreads in the description, by the way. Um, yeah, I really like this book, and I know some people stop reading the series after just the first book, but if you are a little bit disconcerted by the first one, I would really encourage you to keep on reading because it gets so much better and so interesting. I really liked it, so yeah, I would totally recommend the first Shadow Me books, and if you didn't like it that much, I would really encourage you to at least read the second, if not third book of the series. So yeah. Then we have the second book in the series, Unravel Me. I didn't like it as much as the first one because I really like the fact that we get to know Warner a little bit better. However, what I didn't like about this book was Adam. I mentioned I really liked him in the first book, but we got to see who he really is in the second book. And spoiler, he is so overprotective over Juliet and like possessive. I didn't like that. Like he was making a scene basically every 5 pages, and I didn't like that at all. It was kind of pulling the story down. I didn't really like that. I was more focused on getting to know the characters better and their backstory. Why are they the way they are? What does Warner want with Juliet? Getting to know Julie's power better. Her training with Kenji, I love that. Like at Omega Point, The training sessions, I really like that. I really like Kenji in this book as well. Like his sarcasm and the fact that we can see him becoming the best friend of Juliet. I really like that as well. And what the thing that I liked the most about this book was that we get to know a little bit more about Juliet's powers, but also powers of other people. Juliet wasn't in the end alone in this world of in this world. She wasn't the only one with powers, and I really like that we get to know this a little bit better. Now, spoilers, I was really shocked to learn that Adam and Warner were brothers. Like, they have the same father who is a supreme commander of North America. I was shocked about that. I was not expecting it. Well, maybe I was a little bit, because they kind of have the same power, because they can both touch Juliet when no one else can. But at the same time, I thought it was just a coincidence. I didn't expect there to be only like one person who can have a power, but I was just like, oh, okay, they just have the same power. I wasn't really expecting them to be brothers, so I was really shocked by that. So yeah, I didn't really like the book at first, like the first half of it. I didn't really like it because of Adam, but the second half I loved it just because of that and the fact that it was Juliet's power and she was more self-confident and she was like this badass girl in her suit and destroying everything and getting to know her powers better and harness them. I really like that. And so yeah, in the end, even though I didn't really like it at first, I rated this book 4 stars, and I was so excited for the next book just to see how Warner's relationship with Juliet will develop. Like, will they finally get together or not? Because yeah, I didn't like Adam in the end, but I was shipping Juliet with Warner, whom I didn't really like in the first book. So yeah, like it's like the two roles of Adam and Warner were switched between the first and second book, and I was really excited about the third one. So from what I heard, the third book in the series, which is Ignite Me, is apparently the best one, and I must say that I totally agree with that. It was indeed my favorite out of them all. I really like the fact that it was really enemies to lovers, and we got to see Warner's and Juliet's relationship develop. We get to know Warner a little bit better. I also really like the fact that we finally get to know why Warner was so obsessed with Juliet and why he wanted her at Sector 45 in the first place. And also, when you compare the third book to the first one, I hated Warner in the first one, but I loved him in the third one. The fact that we get to know him better and understand him, but also Juliet, like compared to the first book, she's so much more mature and self-confident. You can really see her development along the way. Like when you compare the two books, you can really see the difference in the way she talks, the way it's written. You don't have cross lines anymore, or barely any, and she's so much more self-confident. And yeah, I really like Juliet in this book. So really, if you haven't read the Shadow Me series, or if you decided to stop after the first book, I would really recommend to keep on reading, because maybe not the second one, but the third book is so worth it when you arrive to it. So yeah, I gave this book, as you might have guessed, 5 stars, just like the first one, but 5 stars, but also in my favorite bookshelf on Goodreads, which is like worth 6 stars if that was possible. So yeah, that was really my favorite book in the series. For the enemies to lovers, Kenji's relationship with Julie as well, like they are best friends, and I really loved that. But also just Juliet's growth in the books, the fact that she's more and more confident. Yeah, the whole book was great. I loved it. I could not put it down. It was just great. It was amazing. Then we have the fourth book, which was the reason I was in a reading slump for a month after reading it. I did not like it as much as the third book. Some people say that the series should have stopped after 3 books. I kind of agree with that, just because of that book. It was like the whole story was suddenly different. When new characters introduced, like all of the Supreme Commander's children were there, including Azira, which I really liked. I didn't much like the others. They didn't add much to the story, honestly. But Nazira, I really liked her also. And the fact that Nazira was just helping Julia to remember who she was, that was great. I really liked it. But overall, I didn't really like this book. It was just dragging me. It was just dragging me through the whole story, and I didn't really like it. I didn't find it really interesting. I was not feeling like I could not put the book down and like ignite me. It was just I was forcing me to finish it all, to be honest. And the only thing that made me continue the series after this book was the very last pages um, when Juliet is kidnapped again by her parents, who were apparently the supreme commanders of Oceania, and that really piqued my interest. But it was only at the end and was like, oh, Juliet, I was so surprised to learn that Juliet was actually a child of a supreme commander, and that she wasn't who she thought she was. I was really surprised by that, so that piqued my interest and made me continue the story after after a month of reading slump, because the whole book was just exhausting to read. I didn't really like it, except for that specific event at the very end of the book. So I had to take a month break before continuing the series. So in the end, I did rate it 4 stars just because of that event at the end. Otherwise, it would have been 3. But yeah, I didn't really like it. So if you want to stop the series after the first 3 books, I really understand. Like, the first trilogy is really worth it. I really liked it. The second one is just like additional, not really necessary. But yeah, I still continue to read it because what if it might get interesting? So I started the 5th book after, as I said, a month of reading slump, and actually it was not as bad as I thought it would be. The 5th book, I wasn't expecting much after what the 4th one was. So yeah, Defy Me was actually kind of good. I really liked it. In the second trilogy, it was my favorite. Because we got to know more about Juliet's backstory, who she was before she discovered she had her powers, who she is in reality, and well, if you made it this far, I don't know if you've read actually the books, but like the whole thing is spoiler at this point. Um, yeah, the fact that she's Ella, the fact that she's Ella Summers and not Juliet Ferrers, just like people made her believe. I really like the fact that we got to know this side of her story, and the fact that she actually knew Warner before she met him at Sector 45, like a few months ago. And yeah, I don't know, this book, I was just so hooked by it. I could not put it down, just like for Ignite Me. I think it was my second favorite book in the series, honestly. I really liked it, surprisingly. So if you're hesitating between stopping after a 3rd book or continuing, I would say, well, it's up to you, of course, but I would say either you endure the pain that was the 4th book, or and therefore continue and maybe enjoy the 5th one, or you just stop after a 3rd one. But for me, I would really recommend reading the 5th one, Defy Me. It was really great. I rated it 5 stars, and just like for Ignite Me, it is in my favorite books shelf, so meaning Worth 6 stars. I really liked it, could not put it down, so I would totally recommend reading it just for at least Juliet's backstory and the story of her sister as well that goes with it. Um, I was, of course, missing Warner in this story, but it was good. Also, I was really surprised that for once I really liked the fact that it was multiple POVs in the story. Usually, I absolutely hate that you have multiple POVs because at the end of one POV, I'm like, why are you stopping here? It's like having a cliffhanger at the end of each chapter. But this time, I really liked it that we get to see Warner's POV, but also Kenji's. And so we had three different sides to the story, and I absolutely loved that. So for me, there was one more reason to put 5 stars in that book. It was the first book with multiple POVs I liked. So yeah, 5 stars, totally recommended. And then lastly, we have Imagine Me that I just finished 2 days ago. Um, and like Define Me, really disappointed by that one. It was not as great and was feeling kind of the story repeating itself. Juliet being captured again, her mom trying to make her forget again. I didn't like that. Like, to me, for the first half of the book at least, Kenji was carrying the whole story, otherwise, the rest was absolutely boring. So, yeah, thankfully, Kenji's POV was there. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have finished this book. It was the first half at least was extremely boring, but then when Juliet, um, when it was, this is the spoiler part again, when Juliet was, as Kenji called her, Robo J, that was a lot more fun to read, a lot more interesting because suddenly Juliet's thoughts made a lot more sense again. Because the first half of the book, everything was like, it was cut sentences, it was really confusing to read. But the second half, when she's Robo J, Soldier, Juliet, it was a lot easier to read and to follow, and I was enjoying the jump between Kenji's point of view and Juliet's point of view. And yeah, I think the second half of the book was a nice conclusion to the whole story, even though the first half of the book was absolutely terrible. So in the end, just because of the first half of the book, I rated it 4 stars. It wasn't that great. At first, I thought I would put 3 stars, but really the second half saved it all. So yeah, it was. Now I'm happy I finished the series. It was quite long to read, took me 2 months, but I'm done with it. So yeah, I would totally recommend the series, even though the second half is not that great. Um, but yeah, at least the first trilogy would totally recommend it. So yeah, that was my video. I really hope you liked it. I really enjoyed reading all these Shanami books, and even though it was kind of boring at some points, but I would totally recommend reading it. And if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. If you have any suggestions for following me videos, please leave them in the comments down below. I'll make sure to read them all. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye!